In the golden age of ancient India, when mighty kingdoms rose and fell like the tides of the great rivers, there existed a prosperous realm called Jahanabad. Its ruler was Sultan Azimuddin Bahadur, known far and wide as Bahadur Shah, the brave king. At just 30 years old, he had transformed his father's modest kingdom into a vast empire. He defeated fierce mountain tribes in the north, subdued powerful Rajput warriors in the east, and crushed ruthless sea pirates along the southern coasts. His victories brought unimaginable wealth. Caravans of gold, jewels, spices, and silk flowed into his capital. The people whispered in awe, "Bahadur Shah's throne touches the heavens." The Sultan was a striking figure, tall, broad-shouldered, with piercing eyes that shone with the fire of conquest. Every morning he rode his finest stallion into the forests for hunting. By day he held court, dispensing justice and receiving tributes. At night, musicians played enchanting melodies while dancers swirled like flames in his magnificent hall. For years his rule was just and strong, but as his power grew, so did a dangerous whisper in his heart. "I am invincible." At first, this voice was quiet. His wise old vizier, Hakim Nuruddin, once advised him after a great victory, "Your Majesty, conquest is glorious, but now is the time for peace. Care for your people, fill the treasury wisely, and strengthen the roots of your empire." The Sultan laughed loudly. "Nuruddin, you have grown old and cautious. Allah has granted me this empire. I alone know how to rule it." Time passed, and the Sultan's pride bloomed like a poisonous flower. He commissioned a grand new palace, its walls covered in sheets of gold, floors adorned with the finest Persian carpets, and ceilings hanging with crystal chandeliers that sparkled like stars. He adopted a new title, Zil Ililai, the shadow of God on earth. Courtiers, who once offered honest counsel, now only sang his praises, fearing his wrath. One day, a respected Sufi saint, Sheikh Abdul Qadir, visited the court. The old man, dressed in simple robes, looked at the Sultan with kind but firm eyes. "My son," he said, "arrogance is the devil's greatest weapon. The taller a tree grows, the deeper its roots must reach into the earth. Remember, all power is a temporary. Trust from the Almighty." The Sultan's face darkened with anger. "Sheikh, stay in your khanqah and pray. Ruling an empire is not your concern." Queen Nur Jahan, the Sultan's intelligent and pious wife, tried many times in private to caution him. "My lord," she whispered, one night as they sat on the palace balcony, under the moonlight, "Allah has given you everything, strength, wealth, victory. But do not forget that what rises high can fall. Rule with humility, for the people's love is your true shield." The Sultan merely smiled and replied, "You are a woman, my dear. You do not understand the burdens of kingship." Emboldened by his unbroken successes, the Sultan announced his greatest ambition, to conquer the entire Indian subcontinent. He assembled a massive army, 30,000 soldiers, 500 war elephants, and thousands of cavalry. His target was the powerful southern kingdom of Vijayanagar, ruled by the experienced and wise King Vijay Singh. Ambassadors were sent with a demand for submission. King Vijay Singh replied peacefully, "We desire trade and friendship, not war. Do not cross our borders." The Sultan, furious at this defiance, imprisoned the ambassadors and declared, "I will teach them who the true emperor is." The great army marched south. At first, the march was triumphant. Trumpets sounded, banners fluttered, and the earth trembled under the feet of marching soldiers and elephants. But nature itself soon turned against them, Heavy monsoon rains turned roads into rivers of mud. Supply lines broke. Elephants sank deep into the sludge. Many soldiers fell ill. Yet the Sultan, riding at the front on his white stallion, shouted, "Forward! Allah is with us. Nothing can stop the shadow of God." When they finally reached the borders of Vijayanagar, King Vijay Singh was ready. He knew he could not match the Sultan's numbers in open battle, so he used clever strategy. His forces lured the Sultan's army deeper into forested hills and narrow passes. Hidden archers rained arrows from above. Small, swift guerrilla units attacked supply camps at night. The mighty imperial army, so grand on the open plains, became trapped and disorganized in the difficult terrain. The battle raged for 3 brutal days. On the 3rd day, the Sultan's most trusted general was killed by a stray arrow. Seeing his forces crumbling, Bahadur Shah himself charged into the fray, sword raised high. "For the empire," he roared. But his horse was struck and fell. The Sultan tumbled to the ground, his golden armor covered in mud. In that moment of chaos and pain, the words of Sheikh Abdul Qadir echoed in his mind. The taller the tree, it was too late. King Vijay Singh's warriors captured the Sultan. Bound in chains, he was taken to a simple prison cell. Back in Jahanabad, chaos erupted. The Sultan's ambitious brothers fought each other for the throne. The treasury was looted. People starved as trade routes collapsed and disease spread. The once mighty empire began to disintegrate like a sandcastle before the waves. In his dark cell, Sultan Azimuddin sat broken. The man who once commanded thousands now struggled to sleep on a cold stone floor. One night, King Vijay Singh allowed Sheikh Abdul Qadir to visit him. The old Sufi saint looked at the defeated ruler with compassion. "Tell me, O king," he said softly, "what has your pride given you?" Tears streamed down the Sultan's face. "Sheikh, I thought I was the shadow of God. I believed my power was eternal, but I was only a man who forgot that everything, strength, wealth, victory, is a temporary gift. I ignored the roots and reached only for the sky." Moved by the Sultan's humility, King Vijay Singh eventually released him, though he kept a large portion of the conquered lands and imposed strict conditions. When Bahadur Shah returned to what remained of Jahanabad, he was a changed man. He removed the gold from his palace walls. He reduced his army, lowered taxes, and passed new laws protecting the common people. Every Friday, he sat with Sheikh Abdul Qadir, listening to the words of the Quran and reflecting on his mistakes. The rest of his life became a living example of humility and justice. The same people who once feared his arrogance now loved him for his wisdom. When he finally passed away years later, his tomb carried a simple inscription: "Here lies a king who lost an empire to pride, but found peace and honor through humility." The eternal lesson: arrogance blinds a person to reality. It makes one forget that power, wealth, and status are fleeting. History is filled with such stories of kings, emperors, and leaders who believed they were invincible, only to be humbled by time. The truly great are like fruitful trees. The heavier their branches with goodness, the lower they bend toward the earth. A person may rise very high, but without the deep roots of humility, one strong storm is enough to bring them down. True greatness is not in how loudly you boast, but in how gracefully you bow before the truth.